Welcome to Effective People, your HR transformation partner.
Hello, my name is João Caldeira. I'm the subject matter expert for recruiting here at Effective People, and today I'll be walking you through the new release items for recruiting. We will go through the following items. First, we will discuss the most important topics. Those are the ones that, if you decide to enable them, can have a major impact in your current processes and configuration. Next, we will see other release features that can also impact or improve your system but aren't considered major. Then we will do a deep dive on the new AI functionalities improving recruiting. And lastly, we will look into what's to come in the next year. Let's start with the most important topics. We start with a very promising enhancement related with external candidate authentication. Until now, it was only possible to create a candidate account using an email address. With this enhancement, we'll have the possibility of creating an account with different options, such as registration with a phone number, using multi-authentication factor to enhance security, passwordless authentication, and the current basic authentication with email and password. A very important note is that this enhancement does not follow the general deployment dates from this release and will only be available in preview environments after November 15. The production release date was not announced yet. Also, a very important note is that customers that have system restrictions to EU access and those in Canadian or Saudi Arabian data centers can't use this feature. The new authentication methods are possible because of an integration with SAP Customer Data Cloud. It will be required to configure this change both on SAP SuccessFactors and SAP Customer Data Cloud. You'll be able to select which authentication method you prefer to enable and the user interface that the candidate will see. It seems to be possible to allow registration with various social media sites, but for now SAP only provides support for Facebook, Google, and LinkedIn. For customers eager to enable authentication with phone number, be careful because there are several limitations. The main ones are that we can't use candidate relationship management tools such as talent pools or email campaigns, and more importantly, it's not possible to send electronic offer letters or use assessments or background check integrations. This is because all of these functionalities rely on the email address. Our opinion is that this can be one of the most important enhancements in recruiting in the last few years, because it reduces the friction to apply and brings the career sites to a more modern experience. However, there can be several limitations within the recruiting module and with the integrations if we enable some authentication methods. For this reason, we encourage you to analyze how this can be implemented within your business, but don't expect to enable it super fast, because testing and evaluation of second-order impacts needs to be the priority. The second most important topic from this release is one that affects the onboarding process for internal candidates, that is cross-boarding coming from recruiting. In the past, we would not advise customers to enable cross-boarding from recruiting, mainly because of two limitations. First is that for internal candidates, there is no manage pending hire step when coming from recruiting to onboarding and then Employee Central. This would mean that there is no workflow when hiring an internal candidate. The only relevant approval was captured on the offer approval in recruiting, but that form usually doesn't contain all the relevant employment and compensation data that needs to be approved. Second is that the system requires recruiting to have a lot more data than we recommend so that it can pass it to Employee Central. If this is not correctly done, any unmapped fields in Employee Central are populated from the previous employment record, which is often wrong. So this new enhancement addresses the first issue mentioned, about the workflow approval. Now, when an internal candidate is pushed to onboarding, customers can configure an approval step, similar to what's in place already for Employee Central, so that the onboarding process is launched only when that approval workflow is completed. In recruiting, it will be possible to follow the workflow status within the candidate application. Associated with this It will also be possible to leverage position updates and cross-entity rules to populate the Employee Central fields. Unfortunately, the second issue about mapping of data from recruiting to Employee Central doesn't seem to be fully addressed with this enhancement, although the cross-entity rules might help in some cases. For this reason, we advise customers to analyze if it makes sense to allow the internal onboarding processes from starting in recruiting and leveraging the new workflows available, or if it's still preferable keeping it as initiated only in Employee Central. Let us now look into other release features that may not have a major impact but can also be relevant for your recruiting processes. This new functionality covers a major pain point for customers that have long lists of positions or locations that need to be selected in a job requisition. It is now possible to search for values inside of objects such as the position, the foundation location object, or the job location generic object. Previously, it was not possible to search for values, so users would have to scroll to find the corresponding value. Customers that are thinking about moving soon to the Unified Data Model, UDM, which was a recruiting marketing enhancement announced 1 year ago, can now take advantage of the Integration Center to update active job requisitions when it comes to location data. So that's both on the foundation location object and the new job location generic object. These can also be leveraged on specific use cases that require updating a job location via integration. SAP has announced that the configuration for the interview scheduling with Outlook integration will be moved to a new page called Work Tech Configuration in the next release. So far, there is no action. Starting in the next release, adding or modifying an integration must be done on the Work Tech Configuration page. There is now more recurring data available in story reports, starting with skills, which is also a new functionality coming from the last release. They are now reportable in stories, whereas previously they weren't available. Next, we have job requisition approval data. So again, this is a new set of data that is now available on story reports that was previously only available on table reports. The job location generic object, which is a recent field addition in the job requisition for customers that are using the unified data model in recruiting and marketing, is now also available in story reports. Previously, it was only possible to report on this object using Integration Center, so now the access to the data is much simpler. Lastly, when it comes to new recurring data available in story reports, the audit trail of job requisitions, job posting, application history, and candidate profile fields are now available in story reports, and these were all recruiting data that was not available in story, only available in table reports. SAP continues the effort of upgrading the redesigned applicant management tool. In this case, it addressed the issue of not having the historical results available. Historical results are mainly screening questions and assessments when there are assessment integrations, as they were only available on the legacy candidate workbench. With this new release, they are now available in the redesigned applicant management tool. The redesigned applicant management tool has some improvements comparing with the legacy candidate workbench. One of those is that now we have the possibility of checking if a candidate is eligible for initiating the onboarding process or not. In the previous releases, it was possible to select the option to initiate the onboarding process, even if that process was already initiated before. Now the system is validating that and will only show the option if this is a new onboarding process. As usual, SAP announces new additions to the job board marketplace for customers that post jobs using the recruiting posting functionality. We encourage you to analyze if the new job boards are relevant for your recruiting effort. If they are not, a good reminder is that within the Manage Recruiting Posting page, you can submit a suggestion for an integration with a new job board. A single job code can now be mapped to multiple job roles. Previously, it was only possible to map a single job code to one job role. This meant that administrators would have to maintain multiple identical job codes to select different job roles. The Job Profile Builder now allows you to associate a job code to a custom field. That association of job codes to custom field is then mapped to a job role. This makes administration a lot simpler. Automatic hiring was also a new feature coming out of the previous release earlier this year. Customers that enabled automatic hiring now have admin alerts available in the admin alerts page to check if there are any new errors coming from this automatic hiring. In the Manage Pending Hires tool, there's also new icons indicating if there was an issue, and it is possible to manually review and complete the hiring, correcting such errors. The system is now also validating if the event reason is the correct one for the rehire scenarios. Customers that choose to enforce the latest applicant workbench tool for recruiting users now have the option to hide the legacy workbench. By choosing this option, the legacy workbench is no longer available for selection, so recruiting users must adopt and use the latest applicant workbench tool. If you choose not to enable this setting, recruiting users can still switch between the legacy workbench and the latest applicant workbench as they prefer. While using the latest applicant management tool, it is now possible to download up to 100 documents, that is CVs and cover letters, from up to 50 applicants selected simultaneously. Previously, it was only possible to download 10 documents from a maximum of 20 applicants per action. For customers that are using the unified data model functionality in recruiting marketing and that have the new job location generic object in the job requisition, we can now map this field to job boards using recruiting posting, while keeping the multiple locations selected. Previously, it was required to map the location fields individually, field by field, and now there is a standard mapping for all location fields, which simplifies this connection. For customers that wish to update the job role on active job requisitions via integration, there is now a way to get a query and post the data using the external code in the job role entity. This enhancement makes it possible to start using the new option to pair job codes to custom fields and then to the job role, while providing an alternative to do it via integration. This new enhancement simplifies the configuration needed to define the sender of recruiting email notifications. In the past, if single sender was enabled, some recruiting notification would use the single sender, but others would use a setting in Manage Recruiting Settings called Return Email Address. With this change, all automatic emails coming from the recruiting module will use the single sender defined in Manage Email Notifications. Customers that have an integration with OpenText for document management will now be able to display the offer letters generated by the recruiting module in the OpenText workspace. This change will only apply to offer letters generated after this release date, so older offer letters aren't displayed. This does require some configuration on the OpenText side, so please check the actions needed. SAP has announced the deprecation of two pages in the recruiting marketing career site. The Top Jobs and View All Jobs pages were previously recommended by SAP because they would be helpful to candidates' navigation while increasing the search engine optimization (SEO) ranking of the career site. It was now recognized that they don't provide or help in the modern search experience. Customers that are still using these pages are likely to find them in either the header or footer of the career site. We therefore recommend that you remove these links from the career site before the deletion date of May 2025. After this time, the pages will no longer work, which provides a bad navigation experience. Another deprecation announcement, this time on the API navigation paths from job application status. This is important to customers that have custom-built integrations that rely on the job application status entity to get to the job application. This will no longer be available after May 2025. Please consider changing those integrations to start directly in the job application entity rather than starting from the job application status entity. Let us now do a deep dive into the new AI enhancements related with recruiting. In the previous release, we understood that SAP is focusing the AI enhancement efforts in skills. On this release, we see a continuation of such efforts by adding more functionality and usability to the skills topic. Starting with job posting, We will now have the capability to display the skills for a job that were previously selected in the job profile of a job requisition in the actual job posting. Better yet is that candidates will have the opportunity to upload their CVs in the actual job posting and compare the required skills for the job versus the ones identified in the CV. This is not yet an application, it's just an optional tool that candidates can use to better understand their experience fit to the posted job. Continuing on the candidate perspective, candidates can now search for jobs that match the skills identified in the resume. Similar to the upload on the job posting, it will be possible to upload resume in the search section and find jobs that match the resume skills. Again, this upload will not be kept by the system. It is an optional tool available to candidates so that they can better understand how their profile would fit in a specific job or search on all jobs available. Switching to the recruiter perspective, recruiters can now use AI-assisted capabilities to extract skills from the job description to review and define the essential skills required for this job. They will have the option to define what are the primary and secondary skills, so those are the must-haves and the nice-to-haves, to find candidates who best match with the job. When it comes to screening the applications, AI-assisted skills matching will also help both recruiters and hiring managers identify those that seem a best fit for the job. The system will now be able to identify the primary skills, so those are the must-haves to perform this job, the secondary skills, which increase the ability to perform a specific job but aren't identified as required, and the other applicant skills. So these last ones are additional skills identified in the application that might be relevant but were not selected in the job as either required or preferred. Overall, it seems that the new AI enhancements that focus on skills will help both candidates and recruiters/hiring managers. For candidates, we can see that it will be easier to search for jobs using the skills identified in the resume and also evaluate if a specific job is a good match or not. For recruiters, it will help by suggesting the skills that can be then categorized as primary or secondary in the job profile. While screening candidates, the new skills matching features also promise to make the selection process easier by sorting candidates based on the skills compatibility score. To close on the deep dive topic, following the new user interface changes on the career site because of skills, we now have some style settings that allow the customer to configure the experience to be aligned with the current career site branding. Let us now see what's in the product roadmap for the upcoming releases. For the next year, we can expect that SAP will be focusing on enhancing the candidate application experience so that it's making it more modern. In the recruiter perspective, we can also see that the functionalities around searching candidates inside the database will be improved.
Thank you for joining. We hope you found this video insightful and inspiring. If you're ready to take your workforce to the next level, visit our website for more valuable resources and solutions.